When I do a reading, I tune into my client, and whether it's based on a question or if I'm just doing a general look, I feel into what's going on in my system. I listen to whatever information comes through. Maybe I get some visuals, but I just let it flow through me, and I never know what I'm going to say. With that, this is how I do my weekly transformational forecasts for you. Hi, I'm Veronica Lee. This is your weekly transformational forecast for the week of November 14th, 2022. As I tuned in before turning play or record, I felt some energies down the back in that second chakra, the heart, and I'm going to speak to each of those for just a moment. The energies down the back often indicate, past energies. What's interesting is I specifically noticed the lower part of the back, which is our foundation, old beliefs, old sort of like foundational behaviors, but those behaviors are based on beliefs and oftentimes family structures. What I'm seeing is that we have collectively been sort of processing a lot of our past, processing a lot of, am I, why do I do the things that I'm doing, and recognizing how much of this is based on those fundamental beliefs and our past. What I'm seeing is that this is sort of a week where this is essentially coming up for us, but not in a way that it's necessarily in our face, but in a way that's just asking you to ponder. So perhaps, let's say you're driving down the road and you're like, oh, I always take this exit. I always take this exit. And as you approach that exit, it's sort of like, is there another way to get home? Is there a different route, right? This is all this is really about right now, is just questioning and wondering, is there a different approach? Is there a different, way I could go rather than the habitual? The other area I got was that second chakra area, which is your sensuality, your sexuality, your creativity, your, desires, pleasure, energies like that. When I felt into it, it felt as if there's some sort of like juices flowing, starting to sort of bubble a bit. I like to see the pelvis as sort of a cauldron of where our, creativity resides, and sometimes it can get stirred up. So the question is what's wanting to be created through you? Now, unfortunately, because we live in such a production-oriented world and society, we often think if I'm going to create something, it has to be useful. I have to, sell it. I have to market it. I have to include it to be shown in something or another, right? Oftentimes, that creative force is simply an expression that wants to come from you and through you, but it doesn't necessarily want to be bought or be displayed or be offered to the world for anything other than it just being its own creation. So if we think about our children, when we bear children, what we really want for them is for them to be who they are here to be, for them to become the beings that they incarnated to be. And our job as parents is to hold them with love and consciousness like a seed and praise and nurture their growth, right? That blossoming. We could try to form them. Just like with our creative expressions, we could try to form them into what we want. And it can be sort of like chop off over here, shape over there, kind of push them into that box because it makes us feel safe and comfortable, right? Or we think it's the right thing to do. What I'm inviting you to do is just feel into those creative impulses that are wanting to express through you for their own sake. So perhaps it's, feeling into a specific ritual that you want to do for you that has nothing to do with anybody else. Or maybe it's, you're doodling on the edge of your page and that becomes its own doodle. It has nothing to do with, oh, I have to cut the edge off and save this and do something with it. It's just its own expression. So feeling into what is wanting to be sort of stirred up creatively within you and then expressed for its own life. And then I immediately got the energy around the heart. And one of the things I'm seeing is that we are really trying to become more heart-centered beings. And what that means is that we want to start to lead with our hearts more in ways that guide us and trust that wisdom of the heart. Oftentimes we think that our head and our heart are in conflict, and we need to figure out, like, how do we pay attention to what is correct or what is true? With the wisdom of the heart, there's an inner knowing that can sort of be that guidance that we can learn to trust. Now, that being said, when it comes to relationships and, let's say falling in love, we can, be a little bit love is blindish, but we can also be very pattern belief oriented and actually tap into those fundamental core beliefs that are from our past. Like, this is how people relate. This is how my father was toward my mother. And this is what's familiar. This is what I know. And we fall into that pattern, even if it were an unhealthy one, right? So it's a matter of really, again, questioning that, am I doing this out of habit? Or is this something that wants to be shifted within me? So when I do say heart-centered, it's learning to work and live and trust that heart in a different way, not in an impulsive, I've got to have my heart's desire kind of way, but recognizing that when we are in this strength of love, of strength of heart, of seeing people in their light, that doesn't mean that we don't have boundaries. In fact, it's that heart that can tell us, we need to have boundaries around this, right? With our children, we have boundaries. We don't say, oh, I love them so much, I want them to do exactly what they want to do. And if that child sees an ice cream truck running, going down, then you don't want them to run after the ice cream truck just because that's what the child wants. It's like, actually, there's traffic and there's things that I am here to do to protect that child. So it's learning to discern that love can have limitations in terms of boundaries, and that can also, it's not the either or, be that is the expression of really strong love. And then all of a sudden I'm getting energy around the head too, and it's like almost like a pressure, a little bit of a cap. And so what you might be feeling is a sense of disconnect from your higher self or from higher realms. And that's, again, nothing wrong or bad. But oftentimes when we're trying to work some systems in the body, let's say, or in our inner being, it's not that we're cut off. It's that we're trying to maintain ways to stay in the present, in the body, rather than escaping into these higher realms that can be sort of a comfort, but also a way to avoid what might be coming up for us. So there's a little bit of stickiness in there. That being said, nothing really huge is happening in terms of energy. It's simply movement. It's simply patterns that are showing up, things that we're looking at. But again, I always offer this place of real self-compassion as we clear, move, question, reevaluate, play. That's a huge one, play, and create from this real authentic presence versus a product doing, showing up in ways that the world wants us to show up as, and somehow compromising who we are. So with that, enjoy the rest of your week, and I'll see you next week.